Have you ever just hit a wall trying to learn something really, truly complex? Well, in this explainer, we are going to unlock a framework for mastering those exact kinds of subjects. We are going to cover a trick from a genius physicist, a hidden glitch in our brains that trips us all up, and the one skill that separates the amateurs from the experts in really chaotic fields, like entrepreneurship. So let's dive in.
You know, this quote from Steve Jobs just cuts right to the heart of it all. What really separates the doers from the dreamers? He says it's all about the ask. And this idea, this concept of actively engaging with the world, of not just sitting back and watching, well, it's the perfect way to get into our first tool for building real understanding.
So, how do you build a rock-solid, deep understanding of something truly difficult? I'm talking about things like quantum mechanics or machine learning. Turns out there's a deceptively simple technique that forces you to go way beyond just being familiar with a topic and into genuine, hardcore knowledge.
It comes from this guy, Richard Feynman, a physicist who is absolutely legendary for making the impossibly complex, well, simple. He had this core belief that if you couldn't explain something in basic everyday terms, you didn't really get it. And that simple idea, that's the foundation of his entire method. Okay, so the process is beautifully simple. First, you just grab your concept and write it at the top of a blank page. Then comes the magic part. You try to explain it in plain English. Like you're teaching it to a total beginner. Now, the moment you get stuck or you find yourself using a bunch of jargon, that's gold. That's the exact edge of what you know. So you go back to the books, fill that specific gap, and then come back and make your explanation even better. The final step is to just hunt down any complicated language and swap it out for simple terms and really strong analogies.
I know what you're thinking. This seems almost too basic, right? Just explain it simply? Well, the reason it's so incredibly effective is that it's a direct counterattack against a powerful and often totally invisible glitch in how our minds learn.
And that glitch? It's basically our brain's natural instinct to cheat. See, we are wired to take mental shortcuts, but when you're dealing with advanced knowledge, those shortcuts lead you straight into a dead end of just misunderstanding. Yeah, cognitive scientists have a name for this, the reductive bias. Think of it as your brain's default setting to oversimplify everything, to just shave off all the messy exceptions and the crucial details. We think we're making a concept easier to understand, but what we're actually doing is learning a distorted and fundamentally wrong version of it.
And this bias, it pops up everywhere. We try to force an irregular idea into a neat, regular pattern. We take one decent analogy and we stretch it till it breaks. We study all the parts of a complex system but totally forget how they all interact with each other. We read the first chapter and think we've got the whole story. The reductive bias is a master of disguise, and it's honestly one of the biggest hurdles to real, deep learning.
And this is why the Feynman technique is the perfect antidote. When you try to explain something simply, right from scratch, you've got nowhere to hide. You can't use jargon as a crutch or lean on a flimsy analogy. You are forced, word by word, to confront exactly where your brain has been papering over the complexity. It shines a huge spotlight on the gaps you didn't even know you had. Okay, so we have a tool to fight our brain's bad habits when it comes to learning. But how does this actually play out in the messy, real world? How do experts master fields where the rules are inconsistent and always changing? How do you get good at navigating chaos? First things first, it is absolutely vital to know that not all practice is the same. There's what you might call naive practice, which is just doing something over and over again. Think about mindlessly shooting hoops in your driveway. Sure, you'll get a little better, but you're going to hit a wall fast. And then there's purposeful practice. This is deliberate. It's totally focused on getting better, on looking for immediate feedback, and on constantly pushing yourself just a little bit past your comfort zone. Now, this is especially important in what are called ill-structured domains. These are fields that aren't like, say, chess, where the rules are fixed and super clear. No, in these domains, every situation is unique. A great example is an emergency room doctor trying to diagnose a patient with weird symptoms. There's no single checklist they can just follow. They have to pull from this huge, interconnected web of knowledge and experience to piece together the clues in real time. The context changes absolutely everything.
And entrepreneurship? Well, that is the poster child for this kind of domain. There is no single formula for building a successful company. It's a world that's defined by uncertainty and by making big decisions with incomplete information. So how in the world do you apply purposeful practice to something so chaotic?
Yeah, if there's no single repeatable procedure to master, what are the experts actually practicing? They don't practice something vague like being an entrepreneur. Instead, the experts figure out and isolate a core representative activity that can be practiced purposefully. And for entrepreneurs, that central crucial activity is the ask. It's basically any moment of interaction that's designed to move the whole venture forward. But here's the catch. Not all asks are created equal. In fact, there's a really clear progression from how a novice makes a request to how an expert does it. And this progression, it reveals a fundamental shift in their entire way of thinking. So the journey often kicks off with a simple pitch. Please give me X. It's a straightforward, predictive request. This might then evolve into a transactional ask, a basic negotiation. But the real shift, the expert shift, comes with the tentative and co-creative asks. That expert-level ask, what would it take for you to, that isn't just a request. It's an open-ended invitation to build something new together. And this really shows the key difference in mindset. Novices tend to see the world as fixed, as something you predict and you extract value from. Experts, on the other hand, see the world as something to be shaped. They use the ask not just to get something, but to bring partners into their vision. And this allows them to co-create the future of their company, turning uncertainty itself into one of their greatest assets. All right, let's bring all these ideas together. We've got a powerful technique for genuine understanding, a clear-eyed look at our brain's biggest learning weakness, and a practical model for how experts truly master their craft in the messy, real world. So, what's the framework for your own journey? Well, it starts by using the Feynman technique to really pressure test what you think you know and find your real blind spots. Next, you got to stay on guard against that reductive bias, that constant temptation to oversimplify things. Learn to embrace the messy details. Then, in your own field, whatever it is, identify the core skills. Don't just do the job. Practice those fundamentals purposefully. And finally, you guessed it, get better at your version of the ask.
And that brings us to one last crucial question for you. Whether you're a student, an artist, a manager, or a scientist, there is a core, repeatable interaction, an ask, at the very heart of what you do. So what is yours? And how can you start practicing it, not just naively, but purposefully, to truly master the complexity of your own world? The answer to that question? Well, it just might be the key to unlocking your full potential.